By the spring of 2026, the traditional late-night television industry was in active retreat. The audience was migrating to digital platforms, advertising revenues were shrinking, and networks were cutting costs. The contraction became undeniable when CBS abruptly canceled The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, citing purely financial reasons. Jimmy Kimmel remained as one of the last traditional satirists occupying a major broadcast desk, and he refused to soften his approach. On April 23rd, he delivered a mock White House Correspondents Association roast, taking direct aim at the administration. The monologue targeted the 23-year age gap between the president and the First Lady. Kimmel looked into the camera and joked that 56-year-old Melania Trump possessed the, quote, glow of an expectant widow. Exactly 48 hours later, a heavily educated, heavily armed man bypassed security at the actual correspondents' dinner in Washington. Before being subdued, he discharged a shotgun, striking a Secret Service agent in the chest. Investigators quickly discovered the shooter had a detailed manifesto. That document showed zero connection to Kimmel's show, and no evidence suggested the attacker had even heard the monologue. But for the White House, the proximity of the two events offered a massive rhetorical opportunity. The administration immediately branded Kimmel's joke a despicable call to violence. The president took to Truth Social to publicly demand that ABC and its parent company, Disney, terminate Kimmel immediately. The shooting transformed a late-night monologue into a liability test case, forcing Disney to answer for its comedian's words in a national security context. The executive branch faced an immediate problem: the First Amendment. The Constitution strictly protects political satire. The government cannot simply order a broadcast network to pull a host off the air because the president dislikes a joke. To force a firing, the state would have to prove incitement. That carries a massive legal threshold. An edgy, tasteless joke about an age gap falls wildly short of the legal standard to prove a comedian directed imminent lawless action. This chart maps out the government's legal strategy. Because the First Amendment blocks a direct assault on Kimmel's speech, the administration executed a regulatory bypass. They rerouted the attack, aiming directly at the vulnerable, regulated infrastructure of ABC itself. FCC Chairman Brendan Carr launched an aggressive countermeasure. He ordered an early review of the broadcast licenses for ABC's owned and operated stations, specifically targeting the highly lucrative markets of New York and Los Angeles. Those station licenses were not scheduled for renewal until 2028. Carr's order demanded that Disney submit renewal applications within 30 days, an incredibly irregular escalation of administrative power. By sidestepping the First Amendment, the administration successfully turned a free speech battle into an urgent bureaucratic compliance crisis for Disney. To legally justify this sudden review, the FCC needed a pretext. The agency's official order cited an ongoing investigation into Disney's corporate diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. The document completely omitted any mention of Jimmy Kimmel or his monologue. Look at how this mechanism operates on paper. The FCC weaponized these internal DEI policies to question Disney's overall character qualifications. Under the Communications Act, a corporation must possess the proper character to hold a public broadcast license. This move forces Disney into an existential administrative battle. To keep its airwaves, the company must now commit millions in legal resources to defend a policy that has nothing to do with the actual broadcast. If successful, it provides a chilling, fully legal roadmap for the federal government. They don't need to ban dissent. They can simply punish it by weaponizing administrative law against the corporate host. The severity of the FCC's maneuver triggered a surprising political fracture. Texas Senator Ted Cruz, who has been a frequent, highly visible target of Kimmel's mockery, publicly broke ranks to denounce the agency's regulatory overreach. Cruz recognized the strategic danger. If Republicans establish a legal precedent of using the FCC to police speech today, future Democratic administrations will inevitably use that exact same administrative loophole to crush conservative broadcasters tomorrow. Meanwhile, Kimmel held the line. He refused to issue an apology, he refused to back down, and he refused to quietly resign to relieve the mounting regulatory pressure on his network. Kimmel's public persona has long been defined by his willingness to share personal vulnerability, most notably the 3 open heart surgeries his son Billy underwent to treat a congenital heart defect. After years of openly weeping on air while recounting those life-and-death medical stakes, Kimmel met the president's demand for his firing with open mockery. He returned to his desk the following night to call the president a delicate snowflake, appearing unmoved by the regulatory threats against his employer. The Kimmel FCC crisis demonstrates a shift in government power. Rather than attempting a direct public ban on speech, the state can silence a critic through the slow, bureaucratic exhaustion of his network's infrastructure.